What is it that keeps you coming back? What keeps you going?
I still like doing it. You know, I like the group of guys we have. I like working with them. I still like the challenge of the job. Work for a good organization. I think you'll always think about at the end of the year, but in the end, I didn't come close to doing it, and I really don't foresee myself doing it. I'm good for 2 years, at least.
How about it, Vic Fangio? Hanging around, isn't going anywhere for at least 2 years, as you heard. Good to see you guys. Welcome into Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL. Danny Palmel's here with Barrett Brooks and Ryan Fowler. And this guy was breaking all the Eagles schedule news left and right last week, but this is certainly great news for Eagles fans to hear about the defensive coordinator, Barrett, specifically. Let's start with that.
Oh, of course, you know, him being another 2 years. I mean, I guess they would. You know, they've been customizing this defense around players that he wants here. And they went out and got Grenard, all these guys that he wants here. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. You know, first rounder last year was one of his guys. So, yeah, he has to be here. And plus, you know, you look at him. He says he's aging backwards. I'm calling Coach Benjamin Buttons. You know what I'm saying? He's aging backwards, so let him go ahead, you know, make it happen. Yeah. You know, another 2 years here. I mean, he's at home. He can go to Phillies games, you know. He can watch my show. Yeah, all that's great, you know.
And it's pretty good when everything's tailor-made for you, right, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at Vic Fangio on the football field, right, which matters most, or at least in a booth, if you will. I mean, you look at the guys that he's got operating at all three levels of that defense. It is one of the, if not the best defense in football. I think Houston may have to say a little bit of something about that. But overall, Vic Fangio back in town at least 2 more years. Maybe they squeeze out maybe another year or two out of him there, but he is in town. He's obviously familiar with the guys that he's got going all three levels of that defense, and it's a heck of a group.
Coach Buttons.
Yeah, you trade for the guys he wants, you draft the guys he likes, not too shabby. And not only did we hear from Vic Fangio today, we also heard from Sean Mannion for the first time since being named the Eagles' new offensive coordinator. Here's what he had to say about what the way the Eagles were a fit for him and why he's a fit for this team.
Once you get to dive into those football discussions, all the things that you know about the organization from afar become validated once you kind of see behind the curtain. And you know, it was a great fit. I felt like we really hit it off from the start, and really with all the people in the organizations, it's been a great experience. In terms of, you know, being ready for it, I think I lean on all my experiences. You know, obviously my years in Green Bay, my years as a player, you're learning things constantly along the way. You know, I was fortunate to play for a while and play for a lot of great coaches. And you know, even as a player, I knew this is what I wanted to do next. I knew I was going to get into coaching. So I was always had that in mind as I'm learning things. You know, how am I going to use this someday from a coaching perspective?
Eagles fans hoping Mannion hits the ground running, and that brings us to our three-point stance presented by Toyota. Stance number one, Sean Mannion is ready for this job. You heard him talk about it, Barrett. What do you think after hearing Mannion speak?
You know, I thought of things differently when I was playing. I was always trying to think ahead of the game. You know, I was always thinking, you know, I wanted to be in the league another year. But he approached it differently. He approached it like, all right, I'm approaching this knowing that the end is in mind. So that means I'm going to be a coach when I finish. So he took a lot of notes, kept a lot of the documents that, you know, he had when he was a player, and made sure that he was ready. I mean, he's a backup quarterback. They have to know the game better than the starter. They're the one that downloads the information, usually to the quarterback when he comes off the field, you know, when the coach can't do it. They're asking him, oh, you know, what happens this? Can we attack him this? All these type of things. And Sean Mannion, he took advantage of it. He took advantage of the fact that he was sitting back, watching these guys play. Yeah, this is what I would have done on this play, giving him little hints and everything else. So he was custom made, you know, plus his pops was a coach, you know what I mean? And he made it, you know, very evident, you know, he's a teacher. He wants to be a teacher. His mom was a teacher. So it really gave him a great sense of how he wanted to approach the game, and he used it for his benefit even when he was in the league.
The pedigree was there. What are you thinking, Ryan?
Yeah, Sean Mannion is a guy, Barrett, you mentioned it a little bit as far as being a former quarterback. He provides a little bit of a different perspective at the offensive coordinator position. And ultimately, for him, he wants to be a head coach someday. And I think when you look at what this offense is going to be, I'm very excited to see what this group's going to look like in OTAs. It's going to come down from him as far as testing these guys. Really, the backfield got to get going again. The Eagles are at their best when that front five is going. We talk a lot about what Jalen Hurts is going to be through the air. If they don't run the ball well like they did in 24, this Eagles offense is not going to reach its potential in 2026 or moving forward.
Let's hope he has some staying power. Another new play caller for Jalen Hurts this season to get used to. And stance number two, as we dive in here, Sean Mannion and Jalen Hurts are hitting it off. That is great to hear. Here's Mannion and what he had to say about working with his new quarterback.
Jalen's been awesome. You know, I really think he can do anything we ask of him. He's accurate. He's a great athlete. He really attacks the fundamentals. That's what's been really fun to watch these last 2 weeks of phase 2. He's always coming, wanting more things to work on, wanting more things regarding fundamentals, timing, understanding the scheme. He's hungry for more, and those are the guys that are really fun to work with. It's been a great process to get to really build this thing from the ground up with him and with our staff. I think having gone through, multiple coordinators and stuff, you can tell he's a really capable learner, and that's been really fun to work with on a daily basis.
I like that.
Hey, you got to be a sponge. You're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. The Eagles' offense was top 8 in both yards and points from 2022 through 2024, but dropped off significantly last year, much to their demise. Now, Ryan, is Mannion going to turn this around right away for his quarterback? What do you think?
Yeah, I think when you look overall at this offense, one thing he's going to do is challenge these outstanding playmakers that he has present. You look at Saquon Barkley, you mentioned 2024. That's already 2 years ago. He's going to ask Devontae Smith to be a wide receiver 1 and step up. You drafted Mekhi Lemon and Eli Stowers to be on the perimeter, be matchup difference makers. Are you going to be that early on? You're going to be a rookie that fades into week 10, 11. We haven't seen much from you. And then it starts under center with Jalen Hurts and obviously the health of that front 5. Jalen Hurts under center this year, you're going to see more of it. You're going to see more inside, outside zone. You're going to see him stretching over the middle of the field. You want to see him throw with more consistency in between the numbers, which has really been a little bit of a snafu from him in the first few years of his career, obviously. So I think overall with this offense, it's going to be an exciting offense. It may take a little bit of time, but overall, Sean Mannion is going to challenge these playmakers, and I'm excited to see it because I think they're going to step up.
What do you think, Barry? You echo that?
Yeah, I'm echoing that, but I mean, what really, caught my ear and how you approach this. Here is a new offensive coordinator, but, he went to the basics, the fundamentals. He said, look, he's got to coach, something that, effort. These guys are giving max effort. Physicality, that's something, he wants to be the building block for his offense. And then great teammates. These are all fundamental things. You hear our head coach talk about that all the time. Well, he led off with talking about those. And then he said he put players in great position, the best position possible. Yes, you can have in your mindset the offense that you want to run, but you got to have players that run that type of offense. Can he customize these guys and make them better players and take advantage of what their skill sets are? That's going to be the biggest thing, and I can see him doing that because he's starting off on the right foot. Yeah. He's talking the right things as far as guys, you look at his quarterback, he's had all these different offensive coordinators, so it makes him very coachable. Mm-hmm. For him to say that's like, oh, yeah, you understand what this young guy's been doing. Jalen Hurts has had every type of offense, given to him and downloaded to him with different terminology every single year, but yet he's still been successful. So those are the type of things, I'm listening to and what he's saying. And I'm, like I said, those pillars, effort, physicality, and great teammates, and then saying customize the offense around them, players that are on your team. I love it.
Yeah, he said it's not about one single piece directly.
Right.
Is that a quote
Exactly.
Sean Mannion said?
Yep.
And by saying that, you're making it a complementary offense. You can't just run the ball well and then not throw the ball well. You have to be a complementary unit. And when you can be that, you force teams to pick their poison. Because one thing the Eagles have to their advantage this year, and the Commanders are going to see that in week 1 with their new DC and Durante Jones, not a single team has tape on what this Eagles offense is going to look like. They don't have any tape on Mekhi Lemon or Eli Stowers. They know the faces, but the places that they're going to line and what they're going to do post-snap is going to be new for every single team that the Eagles face really in the first 3 to 4 weeks of the campaign.
Yeah, personnel packages, how they're going to go out there, how do you beat this team? They don't know yet because they haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, all that newness makes OTAs even more significant for getting these schemes and things in place. And let's get to our third stance. Nolan Smith was arrested last Friday, if you haven't heard, accused of speeding and reckless driving in Georgia. Police told ESPN he was clocked going 135 miles per hour in a 70-mile-per-hour zone on the interstate. So Smith made bond and was released an hour after he was booked, per the report. Smith has signed through this season and has his fifth-year option picked up for 2027. Vic Fangio didn't have much to say about his edge rusher today, but do you think this will have any effect on Smith's long-term future in Philly, Barrett? What do you think?
Not necessarily his future, because this is a proven year for him anyways. And if he goes out there and has double-digit sacks and plays well, that might be in the back of their minds, but it won't be the forefront of why he's not going to get paid. So I'll look at that from that aspect of it. But I mean, he's got to do better, and he's a great kid. Smith has always been a great kid, but you got to understand this: his license has been suspended since I think 21 or 22. Here's speeding in Georgia, and you just can't do that. I think you think you have a little juice But that's just not what you have in Georgia. You know, you see what's going on at the University of Georgia, the head coach and all the stuff they have going on with these type of deals, you know. So something has to be addressed with them, and I think it may cost him a little bit, but I think his play on his field is going to dictate his future here in Philadelphia.
Where do you think, Ryan?
I think it's a little bit of a shame, guys. I think it's just an unfortunate circumstance, but this guy is 25 years old. I think he's a kid. He made a mistake.
Yep.
Now it's about putting it behind you and focusing on right now matters most. I'm happy, first off, that nothing happened to Nolan or anybody involved.
Right.
But also moving into this year is getting your mind right, getting your body right, putting it behind you and focusing on potentially earning a contract extension. And also for Nolan Smith, setting your family up with generational type of wealth for the next 50, 60, 70 years. Getting his mind right, getting his body right, focusing on football for 2026 and the years to come. Just put it behind you and hopefully move forward.